Shabbat Shalom, and to those who are observing Passover, uh, happy Passover. So the purpose of this video today is to research and prove whether tonight, Passover night, the 14th of the first month, is a day that is called a watch to be kept. Now, in the Masoretic text, it's known as a night to be much observed. So we're going to look that up and prove it in both the Hebrew scriptures, the Tanakh, and the New Testament, the Greek scriptures, the Berit Hadashah. So let's just pause it for a moment and I'll look it up. So to introduce this topic, I have to mention that this is a day or a night, I should say, that has been observed by the churches of God for a long time. They call it the night to be much observed because in the Masoretic text, it does say it is a night to be much observed. However, therein lies the confusion because they're using the Masoretic text. But if you look in the Septuagint, it reveals the mystery behind this night, behind the meaning of it. So let's just watch from my previous video on Exodus chapter 12. This is at the 49-minute, 26-second mark. So let's just listen to it together. This is beginning in verse 42 of chapter 12 of Exodus. So you can follow along if you like. You can just read it on the screen. In the Septuagint, 42, a watch. This is an important one because I think it's a memory verse to a lot of people in the churches of God. They say that it is a night to be much observed, to be much remembered to the Lord. It doesn't say that. The Septuagint says, it is a watch kept to Yah. What does a watch mean? This is a night watch. This is, if you're a security guard or a police officer, you're working on the night shift, you stay awake. You pull an all-nighter, yeah, you stay awake all night. That very night is a watch kept to Yah. So it's not just observed, it is a watch that you keep. You don't sleep. So this could be related very well to what Yehoshua instructed his disciples that night. Watch therefore, lest you enter into temptation. Let me read from the version I'm reading right now. All right, so in Matthew chapter 26, verse 41, it says here, okay, then he went to the disciples, verse 40, and found they were asleep. And then he said to Peter, what? You couldn't even keep watch with me for 1 hour? Keep watch and pray, so that you may be spared trying times. The spirit is eager, but human nature is weak. So it says here explicitly, this is a watch kept to Yah. It's not something we take lightly. It's something where you're supposed to stay awake, and it looks like they're doing that here. Stay awake with me. Keep watch. Keep the night watch. One of my friends in the walk told me that they tried staying awake all night during this watch to be kept to, night to be much observed, but really a watch to be kept. And I thought to myself, that sounds ridiculous because, on atonement, Yom Kippur, we're not supposed to eat, so don't eat. But it doesn't say, don't sleep. But that's actually what it's saying. That's what it's saying. So personally, I'm being led to the understanding that it is a watch to be kept. I'm not sure, I guess you don't sleep for that full day, or maybe, maybe you just stay awake for the night watch, which is until morning, then you sleep. I think that's the way to go about it. I don't think Yah is unreasonable to say don't sleep ever for 48 hours. I think he's saying stay awake during that night watch. So that would probably be, once the sun goes down up to the morning coming up, probably. But I have to look into that. So that's all for that verse. Uh, so is this related to what Yeshua instructed his disciples? Watch therefore lest you enter temptation. Their eyes were heavy. Yeah, so I looked into that. Verse 46, repeat. It is a repeat or reinforcing of verse 10. And what did verse 10 say? It said, nothing shall be left of it till the morning, and the bone of it you shall not break. So that's where it omitted, the Masoretic did, the bone of it you shall not break. But it does say that in both translations. Okay, so in the New Testament, in this translation called the Source, uh, for the word watch, Yeshua came to his disciples and he told them, my soul is extremely deathly sad. Please stay and keep watch with me. And for the word watch, there's a footnote. It says Gregoreo is a rare word which occurs 22 times in the New Testament. Uh, they translate the example from keep your wits about you. Make it your business to buy the wood also for the doors. It's very urgent. Don't pay more than a moderate price. I believe that, okay, so keep your wits about you. Equally possible here. Keep watch, stay awake, be alert. So keep your wits about you is one way to translate it. However, because this lady, Dr. Nyland here, she is not, uh, she's not knowledgeable about the Septuagint and what it said for this particular night in the historical context. It is, in fact, a night watch to be kept, as I presented in this video in Exodus chapter 12, verse 42, um, that it is indeed a night watch to be kept. Let me just look it right there. That that very night is a watch. So the night itself. Let's look at it a little bit larger in my actual browser. Yeah, there you go. So it says here. So that night is the beginning of the 14th. It is starting from the sunset of the 14th, the evening, until the evening of the 15th. But it begins in this night, Passover. And it says in the Masoretic, it is a night to be much observed unto Yah for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. That night of Yah to be observed of all the children of Israel and their generations. And again, there's a big difference here. It says it is a watch. It's not just a night, it's a watch kept to Yah. So not just observed, it's kept to him so that he should bring them out of the land of Mizraim. So he kept it himself. And we are to follow his example. Follow me as I follow Christ and you shall be holy as I am holy. We have to do what he does. That very night is a watch. So it's not just observed, it is a watch to be kept to Yah so that it should be to all the children of Israel, to their generation. So the important thing we need to research and look into deeply is, well, what is a watch? What is a watch? Define watch. What is a night watch? So let's look that up. Because this is a watch to be kept to Yah, I have all the time in the world right now. I'm going to read all of these 8 tabs to get the full understanding of this and see if there's anything to be benefited from researching this. And if we can glean anything from these sources. So what is a night watch? It is one of the 3 or 4 divisions of the night. See, watch, and time. So that's one. So we'll close that one now. So it is a division, 3 or 4 divisions during the night. of time. Okay, let's see, this one is loading now. So the Jews, like the Greeks and Romans, divided the night into military watches instead of hours, each watch representing the period for which sentinels or pickets remained on duty. The proper Jewish reckoning only recognized only three such watches, entitled the first, or beginning of the watches, the middle watch, and the morning watch. These would last respectively from sunset to 10 p.m. So this is the first. This is the first beginning of watches, 10 p.m., and that hasn't begun yet. Actually, it's only 9 p.m. where I'm at. No, sorry. This is the big. This is the first watch. So uh, from sunset to 10 p.m. and then 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So we're getting close to the second watch, and then 2 a.m. to sunrise. After the establishment of the Roman supremacy, the number of watches was increased to four, which were described either according to their numerical order, as in the case of the fourth watch, Matthew 14:25. So let's look at that. Matthew 14:25. Let's see what it says here. Because it says a watch to be kept, I'm just going to try to stay awake as long as I can uh, to a reasonable limit. So 14:25 says, about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it says footnote on the fourth watch of the night. So 3 in the morning, verse, lost the verse, 25. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Yeshua went out to them walking on the sea. So that is the fourth watch of the night. So which watch are they talking about in Exodus 12? Are they saying all four? We keep all four watches, or is it just one of them? That's an interesting question. It says, or by the terms midnight, cock crowing, and morning. Mark 13:35. Okay, Mark. Let's look at Mark 13:35. And it says here in Mark, so keep watch. You don't know when the owner of the house will come back, whether it's evening. So that's the first one, sunset to 10 p.m. Whether it's or at midnight, so 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., or when the rooster crows, which is 2 to sunrise. And roosters are awake pretty much all the time. If you ever had a rooster or been around a rooster, they're always awake. Or at dawn. So dawn is after, uh, when is dawn? That would be, I don't even know when that is. I guess that's when the sun's rising. If he comes suddenly, don't let him find you asleep. But what I am saying to you, I'm saying to everyone, keep watch. So you're keeping this watch, but he's just talking in general about keeping watch. But when it comes to the watch to be kept, let's just keep looking here. What is our Father expecting us to keep? Is he expecting us to stay awake from pretty much 10 p.m. up to sunrise? Is that reasonable? Is he saying that? Because that is what? That's 2 hours plus another two. No, that's four. So that's, oh, trying to do the math here. 4 hours and another four. So that's 8 hours. So sleep at sunrise. Is that what he's saying? Or is he saying up until two? I mean, I think that's the big question, because I don't think he's an unreasonable Elohim. Watches of the night. So the Jews, again, I think this is repeating the same thing I just read. Oh, no, never mind. It says here, these terminated respectively at 9 p.m., these watches. So midnight, 3 a.m., and 6 a.m. Interesting. So the number of watches was increased to four, but this is Roman. That's not the Jewish, the understanding from before the Romans. So understanding it the way it was before the Romans, we would go uh, not by these 3 hour intervals, uh, from I guess 6 to 9, and then 9 to 6, 12, 12 to 3, and 3 to 6, which is a 12-hour span. They would be more closer to, let's see, if we do the math here, 4 hours. So it would be 6 to 10, 10 to 2, and 2 to 6. So it is 12-hour span. So they wouldn't be divided by 4, they'd be divided by 3. So, I mean, you kind of have to use your judgment here as to which one it is. That's not an easy thing. So that's why we're trying to really get into the heart of this. Nighttime in scripture is divided to 3 to 4 3 hour periods called watches. In Mark 13:35, they're all mentioned. According to a reckoning of time, the evening watch is 6 to 9. So this watch is completing now, right now. So it's completing in a minute. So this is the first watch, it's completed. So if this was all that was expected for the disciples and for the Israelites to keep this watch to Yah, and it's 9 p.m., I don't think that's too easy because I'm not even tired. I mean, I'm a little tired, but I'm not super tired yet. But the midnight watch, which is 9 to midnight, oh, this is the Roman one. Okay. The morning watch. Okay, in the morning watch, Yah looked to the host of the Egyptians. Okay. Gideon and his company came to the camp of the Midian in the beginning of the middle watch, or at midnight, the watch in the night. Okay. The New Testament, Mark 13, outlines what was to be false faithful remnant. Watch therefore, evening, midnight, cock crowing, or in the morning. In these 4 watches of Mark 13, Jesus scanned the long night of his absence, looking forward to the bright morning. The Son of Righteousness shall arise. We find a significant word of Yah in Luke 12. If he shall come in the second watch or come in the third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. Okay, what does that even mean? Find them so what? Doing? Or find them awake? So that's an interesting scripture. Luke 12, verse 38, it says here, those slave servants are well off if the boss finds them ready, even if he comes in the middle of the night or the early hours of the morning. So they have to be ready. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known what time the thief was coming, he wouldn't have let his house be broken into. You too must be ready because the human being will come at the time you least expect. Oh, that means he could be coming in the middle of the night. For example, if this is the Feast of Trumpets today or started, he could arrive anytime between now and 6 a.m. And if I was him, not saying I'm him, but if I was him and I wanted to catch people unaware, I wouldn't come suddenly at 6 a.m. People are awake at that time. I wouldn't even show up at 5, not even 4. I'd show up at 3, 3:30. That's when people usually are asleep. Even people who sleep late, even people who wake up early, they don't wake up that early. So I'd probably show up 3 a.m. Just saying. Okay. And then it says here 12:38. I don't know if I finished that part. But understand this, if the owner of that, yeah, I read that. Okay. So he mentions neither the first watch nor the fourth, but refers his coming to the second or third watch. Oh, that's really interesting. So if he comes in the middle of the night or the early hours of the morning, okay, so it's not the first nor the fourth, but it's the second or third. Okay, so using this understanding, then just based on my common sense, he doesn't expect us to stay awake all throughout all 4 watches. This we know is spoken to those who are to be with loins girded about and lights burning, and who shall be blessed when Yah shall return from the wedding and shall find them watching. This indeed should be true of the ecclesia, as each one of us individually. Okay. What else? Is there a watch here too? And during this time, we have the first watch and the Lord does not speak of his first watch. However, beginning of the fourth church, okay, Revelation 2:18-19. It's getting into some deeper study. At midnight, the cry was made. At midnight, okay. Finally, let's just fast forward a little bit so I can get just into the technicalities, semantics of the watch itself, not all these different symbolisms. So the gloomy night. Okay, here. May we never forget, in order to sustain and encourage the weary watcher, the Lord graciously promises the overcomer in each of the last four churches that he will come with his blessing before the morning or fourth watch. So before the fourth watch. So that seems to be the understanding here, especially if we look at the third watch or cock crowing. So Mark 13. The one that really brings it home for me in this explanation is uh, Luke 12:38, where it says, if he comes in the middle of the night or the early hours of the morning. And Mark 13:35 says a similar sentiment, expresses a similar thought, where it says here, Mark 13:35, it says, so keep watch. You don't know when the owner of the house will come back, whether it's evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows or at dawn. So that's all four. But you don't know when. So keep watch. Yikes, that one is tougher. The doing it Mark style, that's all four watches, but doing it Luke style, you don't know if it's going to be the midnight watch, according to 38, verse 38 of Luke 12. So it's Luke 12:38, the middle of the night or the early hours of the morning. Um, so what is the middle of the night, the early hours? So that would be, middle of the night would be 9 p.m. to midnight, or the early hours of the morning would be 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. So to get to midnight is a challenge, but 12 a.m. to 3 a.m., that's the real challenge. And then this one, I don't know if I can stay awake for that one. That's a tough one, but I'm going to aim for 3 a.m. tonight, even though that's breaking my circadian rhythm. But this only happens once a year. Like, you got to keep that in mind. It only happens once a year. So if you fail this test, oh, that's not going to look so good. What watch night really means, okay, for people of faith. While the watch night service has its roots in the Methodist Church, these services have a particular significance in the African American community and the Black church. I never knew this. I'm learning this. This is brand new to me. So I didn't know it was other people knew about this. Watch night, which takes place on the night of New Year's Eve. Okay, so they do it at a different time, obviously, in January 1st. It's a time of deep reflection and introspection. That's an interesting tradition, anyhow. So these services originated through John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church. They are referred to as covenant renewal services. And in fact, I believe that's what Yeshua did. He actually renewed the covenant in a way with the symbols of the bread and the wine to represent his body and blood. So that's really interesting. Excuse me. And also, Passover is a covenant being made. Watch night services gave Methodist Christians a godly alternative to the drunken badness that occurred. Um, the people met at 8:30. The house was filled from end to end. Okay. The services include singing, prayers, testimonies, along with scriptures read silently and out loud. Those who attend the service have the opportunity, to reflect on their relationship with Christ throughout the year, share their testimonies. While the watch night service has its roots in the Methodist Church, these services have a particular significance in the African American community and Black churches. For African Americans, it is a celebration of emancipation. Many slaves gathered in churches on New Year's in December 31, 1862. So a long history here with this day in American history. And it's important to say that this isn't African American history. This is American history. If you're African American, you're American. That's an important thing to make note of. To wait confirmation of their freedom through the enactment of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Lincoln. And President Lincoln, some will say, oh, he's a white man. No, he's an American. He's not part of white history, he's part of American history. On that first watch night, abolitionists and others waited for word via telegraph, newspaper, or word of mouth that freedom had been issued. Okay, so I just want to look at how they keep it. Like, what time do they stay awake? That's my. Oh, here it is. It has now become a tradition for men, women, and children to spend 5 minutes before midnight kneeling, holding hands. So they're awake till minimum 12, obviously, because they're all holding hands and everything until 12. If you haven't before, think about attending a watch night service. Um, if your church doesn't have one, you can search online for churches in your area that have them. Thank God not only for allowing you to wake up another day. So it's that's a good thought, a good reflection, but also for the freedoms that have been bestowed upon you, and all the freedoms come from above. That's a good point. Without God, nothing is possible, and with God, all things are possible. So it's it's not completely found in the truth, but they have elements of it, just not in the right day. So, watches of night. The Jews, like the Greeks and Romans, divided the night into military watches instead of hours. Again, to repeat. Um, so again, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So we just are starting that. We didn't start that the Hebrew one yet. We're still in the Roman one. But so to 2 a.m. and then 2 a.m. to sunrise. That's another. So I would have, if I'm doing this like for real, I'm going to be doing this. If I'm doing this for real, I'll be doing this for another three plus, and I have 9 hours to go if I'm going all the way. But if I'm only going to do it up to, let's say, the Roman way, I think the Roman way is what? Up to 3 a.m. So if I'm doing the Roman style, I would stay up till I have what? I have 6 hours to go. Oh, I already, I already have a headache. You can't blame the disciples, man. I mean, that's why Yeshua came there. It was probably around, midnight to 3 a.m. And he saw their eyes were heavy, and he came to them and they fell asleep and they couldn't even stay awake 1 hour. So that means that was already 1 a.m., I'm thinking, because they couldn't stay awake 1 hour. It means that was between midnight to 1 a.m. So they probably fell, when he went to check on them, there was probably midnight, 12:30 a.m. That's when he checked on them. And they couldn't even keep watch 1 hour. This is probably the Roman one, I'm thinking. But if it was the Hebrew one, then that means he checked on them. Uh, he checked on them at 2 a.m. and those 2 to 3, probably that one too. I'm kind of leaning towards this one, the 2 a.m. to sunrise one. I don't think they're going to keep the Roman one. So that means they probably fell asleep at 3 a.m. And that's not unreasonable. I don't think our Father and Yeshua, they're not unreasonable. They're very reasonable. They're just trying to push us to our full potential. And they know we can do it, but the body's weak. Sometimes I try to get out of bed. I'm talking to my body. I'm saying, like, I'm literally saying, maybe in my head, in my heart, sometimes out loud, I'm going, body, I know you're tired. You just want to stay in bed. I know you're cold, but we have to warm ourselves up. We have to do this. And I know what you want. You want to just continue to sleep. You don't want to move a muscle. But I'm telling you, it's going to be good for you. You're going to enjoy it. Whatever you want to do, let's do it. Okay, body, whatever you want to do. Whatever. Let's just go. Let's do it. You want to, watch a movie. I don't know. Just get out of bed. Whatever. Let me just coax you out of bed. So the body is, the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. It's a tug of war. All right, next one. Watches of Night, Smith's Bible Dictionary again. Well, that's really the source to go to. The last one is Set Apart People. A night watching, excuse me, a night of watching, a study of Exodus 12:42, and this looks like a messianic website. So, all right, let's go. I'm pleasantly surprised. So, we were in Israel last year with Pesach, and just before the first day of unleavened bread, the discussion of whether or not to keep a vigil on this night came up. Most of the believers in the Jerusalem hostel at the time were of the opinion that we are to stay awake all night and that it was commanded to do so. And that's where I find myself right now. And I feel like, man, this walk can sometimes be lonely, but it's nice to read that. This was new to us. We have read the verse. We have read the verse they quoted to prove this many times, but we have never really seen it that way. We did a quick study, and their interpretation to stay up seemed to be right. So I think they're reading from the Septuagint. So we decided to err on the side of caution and just do it. And that's what I'm trying to do. Um, I know the Jews also believe similar. To err on the side of caution for them sometimes means doing nothing, though. For example, the zitzit, the zitzit, it says there, you shall wear tassels, you shall have fringes on the borders of your garments. So they understand it to mean on the corners of their clothing, they have these strings. So they look like this, I guess, like that, something like that. They're blue with a blue thread in them. So that was my original understanding. Yeah, it's like these strings, these fringes that are on the corners of your covering garment or whatever, right? It's like a border or fringe, a fringe. They call it a fringe. But when I read the Septuagint, it was a lot more clearer that it was fringes on the borders of your garment. So it's all over, kind of like that. So that's why I have this on. They are literally fringes. These are what fringes look like. And it's all over the border of my garment, all four corners, not just the corners, like the pointed corners, but all around. Like it's the borders. A border of something is like if you have a box, like say is a box, the borders is all sides. It's not just the corners. It didn't say in the corners, it said the borders. So anyway, that's my understanding, and that's just the way Yah led me to understand that. So do your own research on that and prove that to yourself. So it says here, and just do it. It turned out to be quite a blessing. We did some Bible study and talked, and when the sun started to rise, we went to sleep for a while. So it is almost Pesach again, and want to do a proper study of the subject. Okay, I apologize for that. I just realized I just realized how where it says that he'll be a man of sorrows. What is that? Man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. I mean, you don't really get it, and I mean, how can we fully understand what he went through? I don't think any of us truly ever will. In Isaiah 53, yeah, look that up. Isaiah 53. But this Passover, it's a real test, man. Because if it's true, and I'm not saying it's scriptural, but I'm not saying it isn't either, that the fast of the firstborn was on the 13th and ended on the beginning of the 14th, that means not only did you deny your body from eating and to some degree and drinking, although I have to confess I was drinking. I had to stay a little hydrated. I mean, I didn't have to, but it was too tough for me to not eat and not have any fluids. I stayed a little bit hydrated. I didn't go overboard. I just had a little bit if I was feeling too dry. But I mean, that was hard on its own. And the next night, you're not. So the first night you're not eating, and the next night you're not sleeping, and that's it's not easy. But I can't even complain because with Yeshua, you know what came next? They arrested him. They arrested him and they did. They did what they did to him. They executed him. Wasn't like that wasn't hard enough to not eat and not sleep. That's a tough. That's a tough test. Anyway, it says here his form was ignoble. And inferior to that of the children of men. A man in suffering and acquainted with the bearing of sickness, for his face is turned from us. He was dishonored and not esteemed. So I mean, like it's not hard. Like that wasn't hard enough to not eat. It was. I didn't really complain. I was okay with that. And then not sleeping, whatever. I do that all the time. But to be arrested, and everyone leaving you, your best friends, just abandon you. They just save their own skin. And we read everything they did to him after that. I blindfolded him and punched him and spat on him. And then reportedly they stoned him. I don't know if that's true, but could be true. He was given to the Roman soldiers. He was scourged. That was enough. It was already more than enough. And then they put him through the ringer, man. Like, you heard of torture? This is not even torture, man. This makes torture seem like a massage. You know what I mean? That was the worst. Worst experience anyone could ever experience. Humiliation. Even in his humiliation, his good judgment was taken away. I've never studied this chapter in the Septuagint, and I never knew the word humiliation was there. He was humiliated, but not. He wasn't humiliated for nothing. It was for me, for you. Man, what a good God. I really should read this whole chapter, shouldn't I? We have all the time in the world. Okay, Isaiah 53. Oh, yeah. Who has believed our report? I'll just read it from the Septuagint only, and we can just go back and forth with their eyes. Oh, yeah. Who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of Yah been revealed? We brought a report as a child before him, as a root in a thirsty land. He has no form nor comeliness, and we saw him, but he had no form nor beauty. But his form was ignoble and inferior to that of the children of men, a man in suffering and acquainted with the bearing of sickness, for his face is turned from us. He was dishonored and not esteemed. He bears our sins and is pained for us. We accounted him to be in trouble and in suffering and in affliction. But he was wounded on account of our sins and was bruised because of our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his bruises we were healed. All we as sheep have gone astray. Everyone has gone astray. Everyone has gone astray in his way, and Yah gave him up for our sins. And he, because of his affliction, opens not his mouth. He was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and as a lamb before the shearer is dumb, so he opens not his mouth. In humiliation, his judgment was taken away. Who shall declare his generation? For his life is taken away from the earth. Because of the iniquities of my people, he was led to death. Now I will give the wicked for his burial, and the rich for his death. For he practiced no iniquity. It's really God. It's really God. Oh, he's really, he's really the God. Oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive. I didn't know. I didn't know what said this. Oh God. Oh, oh, oh God. Sorry. I didn't know he did this for us. Did this. It really hurts. Oh, I didn't want to. I didn't want to cry, but this is what he did. He practiced no iniquity. He didn't do sin. It says right here, but it doesn't say that here. It just says violence. It's so vague. It's just black and white. He didn't do sin. I did. I did so many sins. I'm such an idiot. God is good. He forgives sin, even though it's that we don't deserve to have forgiven. I need to take a sip. I never knew Isaiah was like this. This is really his word. Sometimes I had my doubts. That's just about technicalities. You know, it says this in the Masoretic, and Septuagint says it this way. This goes beyond anything like that. It just cuts to the heart. It's like a knife in my chest. And all my sins are just in front of my eyes. In front of my face. They just are so so before me, and just not that I'm reminding myself how evil I was or am, but I know how foolish I was, and I know how much I've hurt him with my words and my thoughts and my actions and the things I wanted, but I didn't get, but those weren't things that I needed. Anyway, I'll continue on. I'm only in verse 9. I will give the wicked for his burial and the rich for his death. For he practiced no iniquity, nor craft with his mouth. Yah also is pleased to purge him from his stroke. I'm not sure what that means. Stroke. I guess that's not a stroke like what we think of today. So I'm not sure what that means. To purge him from his stroke, like to remove from him his stroke. Okay, if you can give an offering for sin, your soul shall see a long-lived seed. Okay, so he gave himself as an offering for sin, and as a result, he saw a long-lived seed. So we will continue on. What is that seed? Is it the church? Is it the Holy Spirit being given, like continuing through Paul and all of them? Like, I'm not sure what that means, so I'm a little confused there. And even purge him from his stroke. I don't even know what that means either. Um, if you can give an offering for sin, your soul shall see a long-lived seed. So I don't know if that's talking about us or about him. I'm thinking it's him because he did give his life for sin. He gave himself as an offering for sin. So I'm not sure how to understand that part. and purge him from his stroke. I'll just continue on. Maybe it'll make more sense. Yah also is pleased to take away from the travail of his soul. What? To take away from the travail. So he take away the travail of his soul. So taking it away to show him light and to form him with understanding from the travail of his soul. To justify the just one who serves many well. So he served many in his life, healing many and teaching them, and he shall bear their sins. Okay, so it means something different than Masoretic. He's pleased to take away from the travail of his soul, to show him light and to form with understanding. So that doesn't make any sense to me right now. This is like reading the Bible the first time. With I've never read this before in this form. So Yah is pleased, it's his pleasure to take away from his soul the travail. So maybe there's something in his soul that he removed in order to show him light and to form him with understanding. So I'm not sure what that was he removed. That's an interesting question too. So these two verses are not easily understood, 10 and 11. Maybe this could be the part where the Ethiopian, that person asked one of the apostles, I think it was Peter, is reading Isaiah and he's like, I don't understand this. Maybe it's this part because I don't understand it either. Verse 12, therefore he shall inherit many, and he shall divide the spoils of the mighty. Okay, he's going to inherit many. So that's like many people, it seems like. And he shall divide the spoils of the mighty. Wow. It's not with the strong, he's taking their spoils. He's just taking it all. That's like the government, I think. Yeah, this is future fulfillment. Wow. This isn't the suffering Messiah, it's the conquering Messiah. He shall inherit many, and he shall divide the spoils of the mighty. So that might be the ones he redeemed from death when he was resurrected, or that could be future. Because his soul was delivered to death, and he was numbered among the transgressors, and he bore the sins of many, and was delivered because of their iniquities. Oh, wow. That's it for that chapter. Maybe I'll look at the next one, see how far it goes. This is quite a lengthy read, but let's see where it ends. Isaiah 54 now. There was no chapter, so I just keep going. Rejoice, you barren that bear not. Break forth and cry that does not travail. For more are the children of the desolate than of her that has a husband. For Yah has said, enlarge the place. I think that's a typo, but enlarge the place of thy tent and of thy curtains. Fix the pins, spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy pins. Spread forth thy tent, yet to the right and the left. For thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, and thou shalt make the desolate cities to be inhabited. So this could mean many things, but if it's referring to the prophecy of the seed of Eve, who will bruise the head of the serpent, and the serpent will bruise his heel, this could mean Yeshua is inheriting the Gentiles because he was the one who opened the Torah to everybody. He was like the revolutionary, where right after him was the Apostle Paul, who was the apostle to the Gentiles, because before that, nobody knew Torah that wasn't of Israel. Almost nobody. It wasn't something to be taught to other people at that time, not yet at least, not like in a widespread way. Although we did have the mixed multitude in Egypt, and some people were their eyes were opened to this Elohim that could do the impossible. Okay, for it is Yah that made you. The Yah of host is his name, and he that delivered thee, he is the God, the Elohim of Israel, and shall be called so by the whole earth. Okay, I think that's it. Doesn't talk about the Messiah anymore. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, I'm gonna just do a long. I guess it's gonna be a long video, so I'm gonna go to Isaiah 52 and see if there's anything I missed, or even 51. So these are. Oh yeah, there really is. This is really a Messiah. Yeah. In our culture today, especially men showing emotion is not something that is encouraged or even promoted. But biblically speaking and scripturally speaking, that there's nothing against the expression of emotion from man or woman. That's something that developed in the Western culture. I'm not saying men should be babies, but there's a right time to show emotion and a wrong time to show emotion. And a lot of Western society has uh, kept that back to their detriment. It didn't help anybody. It only keeps feelings bottled up, and those feelings actually eat you up inside a lot of times, especially with anger, sadness, and whatnot. So just pause for a moment. So I'm here in Isaiah 50. We're going to cover this in the future, but I'm getting like a sneak preview here. It says in verse 6, I gave my back to scourges. Recall what the Romans did? They scourged him, literally, and my cheeks to blows. So, yeah, they didn't pluck hair off. They either punched him or hit him with rocks. And I turned not away my face from the shame of spitting. Continuing on, but Yah Elohim became my helper. Therefore I was not ashamed. But I set my face as a solid rock, and I know that I shall never be ashamed. For he that has justified me draws near. Who is he that pleads with me? Let him stand up against me at the same time. Yea, who is he that pleads with me? Let him draw nigh to me. Behold, Yah will help me. Who will hurt me? Behold, all you shall wax old as a garment, and a moth shall devour you. Wow, that is more personal. Who is among you that fears Yah? Let him listen to the voice of his servant. You that walk in darkness and have no light, trust in the name of Yah and stay upon Elohim. That sounds like something he would say to the Pharisees. You that walk in darkness, behold, you all kindle fire and feed a flame. Walk in the light of your fire and in the flame which you have kindled. This has happened to you for my sake. You shall lie down in sorrow. Wow. That is so much different than what I read here. It's really, it sounds like the Messiah speaking to me and us. This has happened to you for my sake. It says that they will hate you for my name's sake, and we're going to be living a life of sorrows. Not that it's all depression, but it's not going to be easy. This isn't an easy walk by any stretch of the imagination. These last, oh man, 60 something days have been really, really difficult for me personally. And even the last 3 days have been really difficult for me. I've tried to give up sugar the last 3 days and actively have not eaten anything that was explicitly, like straight up sugar, or I didn't sprinkle anything with sugar, and I didn't eat or buy any products that had in the ingredients sugar or sugar cane or cane sugar or refined sugar or brown sugar. Just the only thing I had this week, as far as I know, to the best of my ability, I just had raw honey. That was the extent of the sweetness that I consumed. and I felt good. But anyway, that's off topic. Listen to me, you that follow after righteousness. Um, Look to the solid rock which you have hewn, and to the hole of the pit which you have dug. Okay, yeah, the solid rock. Who is the rock? Wow, the rock that followed them was Messiah, Mashiach. Look to Abraham, your father, and to Sarah that bore you, for he was alone when I called him, and blessed him, and loved him, and multiplied him. This sounds like Yeshua talking, where he said, "Before Abraham was, I am," and he was happy to see my day. He was blessed to see my day. So this is Yeshua talking about Abraham, hundreds of years before he came to the earth as a human being. And I will comfort thee, O Zion, for I have comforted all her desert places. And I will make her desert places as a garden, and her western places as the garden of Yah. They shall find in her gladness and exultation, in her gladness, exultation, thanksgiving, and the voice of praise. All right, I'm going to just fast forward a little bit. No, never mind. Hear me, my people, and you kings. Uh, Hearken to me, for a law shall proceed from me. Okay, pretty much alike there. And my judgment for a light of the nations. Ooh, that's a big difference. It's just not the people, it's the nations, it's the whole world. That's the whole world that's talking about there. My righteousness speedily draws near. That's Revelation talk. I come quickly. Come quickly, Lord Jesus, right? Come quickly, Adonai, Yeshua. My righteousness speedily draws near. My salvation, my Yeshua, that's what salvation means. My Yeshua shall go forth as light. And it says he will come like a thief in the night. And although, the enemy came down from heaven like lightning, he will also appear. Yeshua comes down bright as light. And on my arm shall the Gentiles trust. So the right hand is the one at the right arm, the right hand of the Father is the Son. The isles shall wait on me. And that could be, I know some people interpret that as the Philippines, but to be honest, it could just be all islands in the world, not just the Philippines. Yeah, why wouldn't I want that to be Philippines? But no, it could be every island on the planet, all the islands. And on my arm shall they trust. Lift up your eyes to the sky and look on the earth beneath, for the sky was darkened like smoke. Okay, it's not going to vanish. It was darkened. Ooh, that's a big difference there. And the earth shall wax old like a garment, and the inhabitants shall die in like manner. Wow. Wait, what? They're going to die? In like manner, but my righteousness shall not fail. Okay, so we could see. Anyway, hear me. I'm not going to talk about all the differences. I'll just read it. Hear me, you that know judgment, the people in whose heart is my law. Fear not the reproach of men, and be not overcome by their contempt. Okay, don't be overcome. That's encouraging. For as a garment will be devoured by time, and as wool will be devoured by a moth, so shall they be consumed. But my righteousness shall be forever, and my salvation for all generations. Awake, awake, O Jerusalem, and put on the strength of thine arm. Awake as in the early time, as the ancient generation. Art thou not it that dried the sea, the water, the abundance of the deep, that made the depths of the sea a way of passage for the delivered and redeemed? For by the help of Yah they shall return and come to Zion with a joy and everlasting exaltation. For praise and joy shall come upon their head. Pain and grief and groaning have fled away. Revelation talk again. I I am he that comforts thee. Consider who thou art, that thou wast afraid of mortal man, and of the Son of Man, who are withered as grass. And thou hast forgotten Elohim who made thee. There's a lot of big differences, but I'm just going to read it. Not going to go through the differences, so just read it. I'm just going to read the true one. Who made the sky and founded the earth, and thou wert continually afraid because of the wrath of him that afflicted thee. For whereas he counseled to take thee away, the man, yet now where is the wrath of him that afflicted thee? For in thy deliverance he shall not halt, not tarry, for I am thy Elohim that troubles the sea, and causes the waves thereof to roar. Yah of hosts is my name. Wow. I will put my words into thy mouth, and I will shelter thee under the shadow of mine hand, with which I fixed the sky, and founded the earth. Yah shall say, actually that's in brackets, and shall say to Zion, thou art my people. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, that hast drunk at the hand of Yah the cup of his fury. For you have drunk out and drained the cup of calamity and the cup of wrath, and there was none to comfort thee of all the children whom thou borest, and there was none to take hold of thine hand, not even of all the children whom thou hast reared. Wherefore these things are against thee, who shall sympathize with thee in thy grief? Downfall and destruction, famine and sword. Who shall comfort thee? Wow, that makes more sense in the Septuagint. It didn't personify these things. Thy sons are the perplexed ones that sleep at the top of every street as a half boiled beet. That's actually a funny metaphor. They that are full of the anger of Yah caused to faint by Yah Elohim. I don't know, the wild bull in a net or half boiled beet. I like the half boiled beet. That actually makes a lot of, it's an interesting word picture. Therefore, hear, thou afflicted one, and drunken, but not with wine. Thus says Yah Elohim that judges his people. Behold, I have taken out of thine hand the cup of calamity, the cup of my wrath, and thou shalt not drink it any more. I will give it into the hands of them that injured thee, and them that afflicted thee, who said to thy soul, bow down, that we may pass over. And thou didst level thy body with the ground to them passing by without. Wow, this is making more sense in the Septuagint. Isaiah 52. Let's look at that. See if there's any more about Mashiach. Awake, awake, put on thy strength. Shall no more pass through thee, the uncircumcised and unclean. You have been sold for naught. You shall not be ransomed with silver. Wow. Why are you here? Thus says Yah, because my people was taken for nothing. Wonder you and howl. Thus says Yah, on account of you, my name is continually blasphemed among the Gentiles. Wait, account of who? Who's he talking to? Jerusalem? Is he talking to Jerusalem? Zion. He's talking to Zion. So people are blaspheming the name of Yah because of Zion and Jerusalem. So they must be doing something pretty bad. I don't know what the historical context is, but Isaiah probably knows. And we see some things in our day that are not exactly things to be proud of in Israel and in Jerusalem. Therefore shall my people know my name in that day, for I am he that speaks. I am present. As a season of beauty upon the mountains, as the feet of one preaching glad tidings of peace, as one preaching good news, gospel, for I will publish thy salvation, saying, O Zion, your Elohim shall reign. Oh man, that sounds like messianic conqueror. Like they wanted to make him king. I mean, now I understand. They believed that he was correctly. They believed he was Messiah, but they erroneously thought he was there to rule at that specific time. That's why they wanted to force. They wanted the people were forcing him to be king to rule over them. Many times it happened. For the voice of them that guard thee is exalted, and with the voice together they shall rejoice. For eyes shall look to eyes, when Yah shall have mercy upon Zion. Let the waste places of Jerusalem break forth in joy together, because Yah has had mercy upon her and has delivered Jerusalem. And Yah shall reveal his holy arm in the sight of all the nations. That's Yeshua. And all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation, shall see Yeshua that comes from our Elohim. Depart you, depart, go out from thence, and touch not the unclean thing. Go you out from the midst of her, separate yourselves. That sounds like Revelation. Come out of her, my people. Do not share in her iniquities. You that bear the vessels of Yah. So it's a little more explicit here that go you out from the midst of her, but it says separate yourselves. It doesn't say that in the Masoretic. That's what it says in Revelation. Come out of her, my people, so you don't partake in her sins and the punishments. For you shall not go forth with tumult, neither go by flight. For Yah shall go first in advance of you, and the Elohim of Israel shall be he that brings you up, that brings up your rear. Wait, what? So yeah, he will go in ahead. He'll go ahead of us. It's true. It says that in both, but it says he will be the one that brings up your rear. So he's going to take us. He's gonna wherever we are. That's what it sounds like. Behold, my servant shall understand and be exalted and glorified exceedingly. As many shall be amazed at thee, so shall thy face be without glory from men, and thy glory by the sons of men. Shall not be honored, it says. Okay. Thus shall many nations wonder at him, and kings shall keep their mouths shut. For they to whom no report was brought concerning him shall see. And they who have not heard shall consider. Wow, this is really getting detailed. This is like really fine details of, like, for example, I think it's referring to when he was brought before Herod, when he was, oh yeah, who has believed a report, and to whom has the arm of Yah been revealed. So we're back to 53. So yeah, it sounds like it's talking about when Yeshua was brought before uh, Herod and Pilate, and people wondered at him. Many people, like the Greeks and other people around, Samaritans and whatnot, and I'm sure there's a lot of nations in that area besides Greeks, Romans. For they to whom no report was brought concerning him shall see. So that sounds like Pilate They didn't really bring a report. They just said he's guilty. Let's execute him. And then he saw, and they did not hear. They who have not heard, so he didn't hear his words until he met him. Will consider. So consider what? To believe the report. Yeah, that's what it is. It's not a question. It's a fact. It's a statement saying they will consider. Oh, Yahweh's believed our report. Did Pilate? It seemed like the wife did. But Pilate himself was a little on the fence. He's like, you know what? I'm a little bit afraid. So I'm going to wash my hands and not be guilty of this man's blood because he doesn't deserve it. Didn't do anything that worthy of death. Man, that's heavy. Wow. That is heavy. We're only at 10 p.m. This is oh man. Okay. Where am I in the study? Wow. I didn't even finish this one, did I? I don't think I finished this. Okay. Okay. Did I read this? Okay. Let's keep going. It says here, it's almost Pesach again, interpretation of watch. We did some Bible study. Okay. So it is almost Pesach again. We want to do a proper study of the subject to make sure our interpretation is correct. And we do stay up if we are indeed commanded to do so. The interpretation to keep watch is based on Exodus 12:42. We shall first look at how this verse was translated in a few different Bibles. So I know only in the Septuagint it says a watch, but let's see what they say here. The first translation is the New American Standard Version. When you read this verse in the New American Standard Translation, you don't really notice anything exceptional about it. It seems to refer to the observance of the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the special meal and telling of a story. Night to be observed. However, if you dig a little deeper, you find more. If you look at the footnotes, it would literally read as follows. It is a night of vigils to Yah for having brought them out from the land of Egypt. This night is for Yah of vigils to the sons of Israel throughout their generations. Here's the Young's literal. A night of watchings it is to Yah. So Young's literal is closer to the Septuagint for that term. A night of special protection. The complete Jewish Bible renders it like this. This was a night when Adonai kept vigil. So they kept vigil. The complete Jewish Bible renders it as a vigil or a night of watching to be kept by Yah. And the Septuagint, as we saw just so many times already, that it is a watch. It's a literal watch. This is a night watch to be kept, not just a watch, but a night watch. And I believe that's 1242. I think I'm memorizing it by now, but went over it multiple times already. So let's look at that one more time just to fact check. It is a watch to be kept to Yah. That very night is a watch. It is a night watch. Okay, so it's no argument about that. It's pretty clear in the Septuagint. It's not open to interpretation. This there's a translation. It's either night or day. It's either watch or sleep. So what else could it be? This translation is in line with the belief in Judaism that Yah protects Israel in the specific night. Is this an accurate translation? What does Yah not always protect Israel? To answer this, we will look at a Jewish commentary and some history. We are digressing a bit here, but it is important for understanding. Here's some commentary from the Jewish Study Bible to shed some light on this. Now, normally I don't like going to these sources, but since we have a lot of time, we'll do it. Vigil, heb shimurim. Although derivatives of the root watch, guard, observe are common, they occur 5 other times. This form is unparalleled in the Bible. Rabbinic, it means guarding care. Okay, it's kind of getting a little too technical for me. The sense would be Elohim guard the Israelites. So the same they guarded. The translation vigil implies that it was a night of God's vigilance protecting Israel. So that's the way they take it. Again, it's a mistranslation on their part. They didn't look at what the original said. The original Hebrew, which was translated into Greek, was a watch. This is a night to be kept as a watch. Or Specifically, that very night is a watch. So that night is a watch to be kept. You can only keep a watch if you stay awake. From this commentary, we see vigil is kept both by Yah and Israel, not only by Yah. Yah protects his people, so nothing about staying awake. It's just a vigil. Um, Let me read this. The final night in Egypt is described as um, one, a vigil for both God and Israel was one that God, so to speak, watched over, having long designated it to be the night of redemption, a night Israel was enjoined to safeguard for all time. It talks about the Talmud. I'm not going to mention that. I know that's not based on the Torah. Um, okay, an ironically tragic twist. Throughout Christian Europe in the Middle Ages and in many lands, even into the 20th century, the night of Passover became a night of anguished vigil for Jews on account of the blood accusation, the monstrous fabrication that Jews use Christian blood for the Passover rites. Oh, man. As a consequence of this calumny, the frenzied masses incited by the clergy would perpetuate bloody pogroms against Jews, and the night of vigil became a night of vigilance. Oh, that is just, oh, that's so really wrong. From all this, we learn that the vigil does not refer to Yah's vigilance. Anyway, it's a wrong translation, so let's just not read it anymore. The ESV says it was a night of watching. Yeah, it's a night of watching. That's pretty close. So now we look at translations. Let's look at the meaning of the word. So they didn't even look at the Septuagint. That's really sad. Now, followers of Mashiach, you gotta get right down to it. What version of scriptures did he use? It was the Septuagint. That's what he used in his day. The Masoretic didn't even exist. Okay, let's look. Here's the knowledge, the Bible knowledge, commentaries, interpretation. A night of waiting for Yah. Interesting. The fact of God's care of his people on the night of Exodus should be remembered. Since he kept vigil over them, they should keep vigil to honor him. They were told to be careful and be vigilant because he is. If we were to look up the word as it was translated in the Septuagint, finally, didn't think they'd get there. We would get an idea how this word was understood at this time. We have seen from our previous studies of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Again, that's one of the oldest remnants of scripture, that the Septuagint translation is in many cases more accurate than the Masoretic text. Well, who would have thunk? You think after 400 years before Yeshua versus 700 after? I don't know. You tell me. Here's an excerpt from the Septuagint. The Greek word, I can't read that, but anyway, it uses that word. The Greek word is pronounced prophylake. Prophylake. We get our English word prophylactic from. The meaning of this Greek word is advance guard sentinel. Vigil watch, guarding, serving as sentries. Oh, I'm gonna have to be in the night shift tonight. Here's a quote from the Greek English lexicon to explain the meaning of this word. Guard in front, outpost, vedette, piquet, piquet. His advanced guard with outpost, guarding, guard. Watch, vigil, caution, precaution. This word denotes a special watch or guarding, like a sentry would guard. It also expresses preparedness or caution. This is quite interesting, especially if you consider what had taken place in history on this night. Yeah, the death of the firstborn. And if they didn't put the blood on the doorpost, now people like to think, okay, the death of the firstborn of the Egyptians. But it would have been the death of everyone's firstborn if they didn't put something on the doors, the blood of the lamb. So if I was an Egyptian, okay, let's just devil's advocate here, but if I was an Egyptian and I said, what are you guys doing on your doorpost? And they would tell me, oh, this is the blood of the lamb because, Elohim commanded us to do this so that we wouldn't die. I go, okay, I don't want to die either. Can I do that? Can I borrow some blood, please? So I'd do it. I don't want to die either, but you don't really understand what you're doing because that's rehearsal. It's a foreshadowing of what's to come in the form of Yeshua. So interesting. It is a. It would have been the death of everyone, but the blood of the lamb is the only thing that distinguished them. Okay, here's the English translation of the Septuagint, the Lexham English Septuagint. So, there's a third version. I have the Nets New English translation of the Septuagint and the Brenton's Septuagint. And now there is a Lexham. I didn't don't know. So there's three. That's nice. It is a watch to Yah, so as to bring them out from the land of Egypt. That night watch, it is a keeping watch to Yah, so that it is for all the children of Israel throughout their generations. As we said before, this word is also used in the Septuagint to translate the notion of being prepared. Here it is in the book of Ezekiel. Be prepared, prepare yourself, you and all your companies that are assembled about you, and be a guard for them. Excuse me, there are two other scriptures that confirm a staying awake on this night. The first is the commandment not to leave any meat till morning, but to burn what is left over before morning. You shall not leave any of it over until morning, but whatever is left of it until morning you shall burn with fire. And they didn't kill the lamb now. They killed the lamb on the day portion of the 14th, which would be tomorrow. And they crucified him, I think, at 9 a.m., but he didn't die until 3 p.m. So he was up there for another 6 hours and he didn't sleep. I don't think he slept. He was awake for a good 48 hours, but he still had the strength to not only stay alive on the, you know, on the tree, but he also yelled out. And he took a lot of punishment that day. And you shall not leave any of it over until morning, but whatever is left of it until morning you shall burn with fire. If you think about it logically, would you leave food after the evening meal, go to sleep, and after that burn whatever is left over in the morning? No, you'd be awake. Or would you leave the food because you may still eat of it during the night because you are awake? Oh, I should probably eat something that will keep me awake. And then burn what is left over in the morning. Yeah, good point. That's actually a really good point. Then after that, actually, I wouldn't have understood that without this person's explanation. So I'm thankful for that. That's a good point. After that, in the morning, you are to return to your tents. When you shall cook and eat it in the place which Yah, your Elohim, chooses. In the morning, you are to return to your tents. These verses could be a clue for us. This night on which the Passover was eaten was celebrated at the temple and could have been an all-night feast that the people would eat, recount the story of the Exodus, and praise Yah for their deliverance. This was a national celebration, as we have seen in the article, the first Passover and the commemoration of it. They are also to burn whatever meat is left over, and we read in Deuteronomy that they are to return to their tents in the morning. This confirms that the festivities could have continued all through the night. So they are being festive. They're being probably a little loud, maybe, and celebrating their deliverance. Wasn't it? I think it was Miriam and the women who were dancing and singing. I don't know if that was the same day or maybe afterwards, but it wasn't too far away from that night after the Red Sea crossing. So maybe that was the first day of unleavened bread. I'm not sure. Anyhow, yeah. So I kind of disagree with just treating it like a funeral. I'm not saying we should be, you know, joyous and euphoric. But I'm saying, yeah, we can still talk to each other in fellowship and recount the deliverance that Yah did for us, bringing us out of spiritual Egypt and into where we are now, and everything He's done for us in the past. There's nothing wrong with that. So, I mean, there's no scriptural prohibitions against talking on this day. But that's a tradition from Church of God. That's not scriptural. That's just something that they they just decided to do on their own. Conclusion. Okay, so now we have quite a few interpretations and commentaries here. Let us put it all together. It seems that this night is to be observed as a vigil or watch, and it is a watch. It's difficult to make a correct interpretation. Not for me. Let's go. Let's go back in time. Consider the night of the Exodus. Israel is told to slaughter a lamb, put blood on the doorposts and lintels. They're commanded not to leave their homes. They are probably awake in anticipation of what will happen next. So, uh, man, I didn't do the blood part, but again, that was fulfilled by Yeshua, so his blood is upon me. Wow, this is really a deep holy day. And don't leave my house. So I have not been out of my house the whole day. So I should keep it that way until the morning, I guess. I can leave in the morning. They were probably awake in anticipation of what will happen next. They were waiting and watching. It took faith to be delivered that night. The Egyptians probably thought it foolishness. However, those who believed the word were delivered. Is it different for us? The world thinks it's foolishness to keep Yah's commandments. Yeah, the foolishness of, wait, how does it go? The something of the world is foolishness to God, and the something of something is foolishness of the, you know, I forgot how it goes. You know the thing. The world thinks it's foolishness to keep Yah's commandments, but we do it in faith of a future redemption. The first Passover was a day of deliverance for Israel. Years later, on a Passover, Yah sent Yeshua to deliver us from eternal death. The phrase throughout their generations tells us that we are still to observe this. Okay. We're still to observe this throughout their generations. Yeah. Yeah. All other, all, uh, all other times this phrase is used in scripture, it refers to an eternal commandment. Prophecy can be fulfilled more than once, even more than twice. Who's to say a future Passover would not again be deliverance for us, a physical deliverance? We are therefore to be vigilant and wait. His deliverance, he gives us instructions for our own good. His instructions are life to us. We are to choose life. And then Deuteronomy 30:19. We would like you to consider this and please share your understanding with us. Do your own Bible study or your own study to see if this is indeed so, and then be obedient. In our next article, we shall look into the watch that was to be kept by Yeshua's disciples in relation to the Passover meal. Please subscribe to make sure you don't miss this. And oh, so is this the one? Is that what he was talking about? That it's not a that what did he just say there? We should look into the watch. Okay, the watch that was to be kept. Because he said that. Keep watch. The Hebrew means vigil. Watch from the root shomer, to keep guard. I think it's pretty clear. I'm sure kids love any opportunity to stay up late. Not if they wake up early, They actually, when you wake up early, you want to sleep. You don't, you don't want to push yourself to the limit. If you actually are sleepy, it's like, oh man, I'm gonna say it, but it's kind of like torture. Like, I'm sorry to say it, Father, but it's not easy. It's not easy, man. Fasting isn't easy either. It's somewhat like torture too. They say afflict your souls. Affliction isn't something pleasant, and keeping awake and not sleeping is somewhat of an affliction too. Look at the word shemur. Okay, I'm not really interested in that, to be honest. I just want the real word. I don't care what word it is in Hebrew or Greek or Roman or Swahili. I just want the real word. I don't care what language it's in. The problem arises because the word Passover today is used to actually describe two separate and distinct appointed feasts. Yeah, Pesach and unleavened bread. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it's a little confusing. The Hebrew day begins in the evening. You would hold your Seder as soon as night falls Thursday evening. Do a search for Feast of Unleavened Bread. Does it begin the 14th or 15th? Or 14th, according to the Bible. According to Septuagint in Leviticus 23, it says the beginning of the 14th. So that's the evening. That's what Yeshua and his disciples did. So that's what it is. Also, in the Holy Temple for offerings to Elohim, only matzah was used. Since the Israelites departed from Egypt, didn't have time to put yeast in their bread, then matzah only is used. Uh, Therefore follows we should remove leaven prior to both of these feasts, probably starting on Pancake Day. Pancake Day. That's perhaps the reason why Pancake Day came about. As we can see, things get lost and meanings get changed down the centuries. The Jewish people start to remove leaven from their homes months before these feasts. Really, months? There's a special ceremony regarding the removing of leaven, sin from our lives just before the onset. Interesting. Those are interesting traditions. As a Christian, we need to set time apart to keep vigil. It was a night of watching. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all for that one. Let's just wait. Sighted Moon. Sighted Moon Archives. I am shocked. Sighted. That's that was just last year. Wow. Let me open that there. Wow. Okay, let's open that. Sighted Moon. I didn't think I'd see Sighted Moon in this website. Set apart people. Was it a Passover Seder? Um, that's a good question. I know some people say no and some people say yes, but I don't think it was the Passover Seder with the lamb. Obviously, it didn't have lamb because he was the lamb. Um, and is Seder really something that is in Scripture? Like, this is the Seder you shall keep? It's just, he kind of tells us in Exodus and Leviticus what to do. Okay, we're really observing a vigil in the night. Yeah. The first night of the Feast of Leavened Bread, was this what Yeshua? No, this is actually the 14th. That wasn't the 15th. Because then he wouldn't be the Passover lamb. He wouldn't be the Passover lamb if they kept him the 15th. It was the 14th that night, which is the night right now. The first night of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Was this what Yeshua asked his disciples to do when they were in the garden on the night of after the Last Supper? So he took the disciples, three disciples, asked them to watch with him. He told his disciples to pray. So we should be praying too on this night. Pray that we don't fall into temptation to sleep. I think that's what it is. Don't fall into temptation to sleep. I mean, what else are you going to do besides sleep? No mention was made of keeping watch. In the Gospel of John, this is only briefly mentioned. Does this sound like a commanded vigil? When we look at the Greek word that is used here, we see it as different from the Greek word prophylake that was used to translate the Hebrew word shimurin. Gregorio, yeah, I said that already. Oh, man. When you look at the Greek word, it's different. So they're saying the Hebrew is superior than the Greek just because it's Hebrew. That's wrong. That's not how you judge. If I translate the Masoretic into Greek and then I reverse translate the Septuagint into Hebrew, just because one's in Hebrew, one's in Greek doesn't mean one's better than the other. It's what did Moses have? That's the question we should ask. What did Moses have? What did Yeshua have? It's not what language it's in. I could translate Mein Kampf into Hebrew. Does that mean it's superior? Just because I translate whatever text into Greek? No. Oh, the truth is the truth. It doesn't matter what language it's in. But I digress. Hebrew is the language of creation. There's no doubt about that. But it doesn't mean just because something's in Hebrew is better than something else that's not in Hebrew. I think people need to get around that. It's Hebrew has become the Hebrew fascination. The Hebrew this what do we call it? It's this mysticism about Hebrew has become a snare to brethren. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's Hebrewisms, that Hebrew idioms that can only be understood through Hebrew, and you can't understand through any other language, that's beneficial. But to say, for example, that this is called water in English, but if I say it's mayim, it's automatically better than the word water? No, that's not so. That's not how you judge. No, it's you judge by the intent, by the heart. Somebody speaking in whatever language you prefer, smiling at you, but inside they want to kill you, is obviously not as that's not the kind of person you want to deal with, as opposed to someone who looks threatening to you and is speaking in a language you hate, but inside they actually are loving and would never hurt you. So do not judge. Yeshua said himself, do not judge by outward appearance, but judge righteous judgment. You can't judge people from their outward appearance. You can't judge a text from the outward language. It's a big mistake because if you really look into the history of both texts, the Masoretic came from the Pharisees, the Septuagint came from Moses. And who do we follow? The Pharisees or Moses? And not only that, but the Septuagint is what Yeshua used. So who do we follow? Yeshua or the Pharisees? It's either Elohim is Elohim or the Pharisees are Elohim. Is Yah Elohim or is the Pharisees Elohim? There's a decision we have to make. And just because one's in Hebrew doesn't make it superior. Okay, I think that's all for that. Other proof from Scripture. Apart from what we have read above, we find other clues in Scripture that tells us that it was not a Passover Seder Yeshua had with his disciples. The bread was eaten was not specified as unleavened bread, artos. Yeah, no, I've heard this argument, uh, but I do believe it was unleavened because unleavened bread back then was absorbent. It wasn't like a cracker. It's like you bake it, but it's flatbread. It can still absorb liquid. Um, okay, I'm not going to go through all that. That's again, it just sounds like a lot of confusion here. They're not using the right text. What have we learned? Yeshua fulfilled Passover. Definitely did. Okay, but this is an interesting article. I appreciate that they posted it at all. And okay, I'm going to close this very soon, but I want to also discuss the new year and the biblical new year and Pesach. So tonight, I was on the fence. Is this really Pesach or is it next month? And I listened to what Rebecca Biederman, I've been saying her name wrong all this time, but Biederman, Mrs. Biederman, what she said was there's a lot of signs that she's seen besides the barley. She's seen the flax and other crops that are in the stages that they were during the Exodus, that they're in the boot, just like the Septuagint says. And she also pointed out that back then, one of the biggest differences, and something that I'll probably go to my grave lamenting, is that we are so far from the culture that Yah originally intended for civilizations. For people to be agrarian, to live in an agricultural society, a Gemeinschaft society, as they say in the German, where people care about each other. You talk to your neighbors, you're a community. When one suffers, they all suffer with them. Like a small town where people care about each other and no one is left behind. That's Gemeinschaft. I think that's what Elohim intended. So what we have now is Gesellschaft, industrial. Nobody knows each other. No one cares about each other. Cold, distant, love. The love of many is waxed cold. And people are left behind. We have so many homeless, people dying out in the streets, freezing to death. Nobody talks to each other. Nobody cares about each other. Very few care about each other. They genuinely do. They just, if you count how many people walk past a homeless person who is just as important as anybody and has the same potential to become a child of Elohim, thousands and thousands walk past that person, and almost nobody stops to even give them a little head nod or even look at them in their face and look at them in their eyes because for some reason they're inferior or not worth the time or they're not human or whatever people like to think, which is a disgrace. It's shameful. That's the society we live in, Gesellschaft, industrial society. So what I'm getting at is when you're no longer an agricultural society, you've lost touch with the signs you should be looking for and all these things that scripture is saying about, the first fruits and starting a harvest. And what is a harvest? And is it when the farmer has acres and acres of barley that is ripe and he's going to, take the sickle and start harvesting and he's going to feed the whole community all by himself? Nope. No, Rebecca Biederman correctly said almost everybody would have a farm back then. And I hate to use this term, but self sufficient, like you are at least knowledgeable on how to grow crops and you rely on Elohim to provide you the increase of the produce of the yield of whatever you're growing. So you would be more astute, you'd be more observant of these changes, minute changes. And no, you won't be going through acres and acres looking for, oh, where's the first fruit? You'll notice it. It's going to be kind of obvious, especially if you do this over many decades and you have family experience with it and someone teaches you, oh, this is what it looks like this is when it's ready. And Rebecca Biederman is doing that. This is what it looks like. And if you wait too long, it's going to be overripe and, and so on. So I think she's correct when she says that, excuse me, that, yeah, people will be harvesting for their own families. They'll have their own fields. There's not just one big farmer with one, hectare or hectares of land to feed the whole country, the whole nation of Israel. No, there are multiple people who have multiple farms, or I should say, multiple families with their own properties, with their own land and fields of barley and flax and all that. And they would keep close eye. I was going to say watch, but keep a close eye on it. And then they would say, yeah, this is ripe. And then they would begin the harvest and take a omer of the first fruit, the barley. And I think she's right. I know last time we spoke about this, I was on the fence because I said, okay, we need a lot to feed the people, and it has to be a harvest. You can't have harvest without a lot. So again, it's not 100% sure, but I'm more leaning towards what Rebecca is saying because, again, the flax is also a sign. The barley is certainly ripe, and it's not like one or two. It's like many as fields, and like she said, many families would have their own farms back in ancient Israel. And that was really the way life was intended to be. Families were supposed to be farmers. It's not just, oh, you're the city mouse and I'm the farmer mouse. No, we're all supposed to be like that. Maybe some people are chicken farmers, some are corn, barley, some are tomato farmers. Some are dairy farmers, but still, everyone's got their own thing. And it's not industrialized. It's very much we're connected to the creation that God made, that Elohim made. Okay, so this has been a long video. I don't know how long I've been going now, but this is 10:30 p.m. So I think we've been going for at least an hour or two. And this has been an emotional night. But think of Yeshua and again, a man acquainted with the sorrow. He's not just there taking it like stoically. no emotion. I would wager he was an emotional soul. Recall Lazarus, or in the Hebrew, what was his name in Hebrew? Eleazar, and how he loved Lazarus. And they called him to notify him, your friend's dead. And he saw the people mourning. And yes, he was close to Lazarus. They had a relationship, they were friends, and he mourned. He was moved to tears. That's not a person who's unfeeling or stoic or like Western society, like, oh, be a man, don't cry. No, that was healthy. He was a healthy man, and he expressed emotions appropriately at the right times for the right reason. So I know I might get some flack for showing emotion and recording it and uploading it, but to be honest, I did pause it at one point, and I had to mourn like off screen. But then when I recorded again for the second part, or after I paused it, I couldn't fight it back. I tried my best to hold it in, but I realized, no, this is your this is your Messiah, this is your God, this is your Elohim who saved you, and he gave up every ounce of his being. He didn't hold anything back. So why should I? For the sake of my life. And you have to feel that the weight of that sacrifice and the weight of your sins and just what it means to be delivered from sin, to be freed from Egypt, which is a symbol of the sin that kept us captive and not free. For the Torah, the law of Elohim is freedom. There's freedom in that. But to live under the law of sin or the law of Egypt is slavery, it's captivity. But the living under the law or the Torah, under to be a servant of that, is not slavery. You're not a slave. You are a child. You are an inheritor. He's a loving father. He's a caring shepherd. The good shepherd who gave his life for his sheep. He laid it down on his own accord. No one forced him to. He did it because he wanted to. And I cried because I wanted to. And I'm not going to apologize for that because it's genuine. And I felt it. And, Yah gave me that emotion to really express my gratitude and my contriteness. And, hopefully that will turn me around to not just refrain from sin, but to do good, to replace that bad behavior with good behavior, and good thoughts and good words, good everything. I've been praying lately, Father, help me to think the thoughts you want me to think, to say the words you want me to say, to do the actions you want me to do, and to hear the things you want me to hear, to see the things you want me to see, to eat the things you want me to eat, because there's so much bad food out there, including sugar, including, processed foods, meats and dairy and things that are really not good for us. And it's really helped me. I thought it would, I just thought it would be like a little mantra, help me see the things you want me to see, hear the things you want me to hear, taste and eat the things you want me to eat. But ever since I started praying that this week, it just started to take effect. and was very prominent in my mind and my heart to remember every time I would was hungry, that is this really good for me? What is the body saying? How is it feeling afterwards? What is my energy level like? And the things I look at, how is this making you feel? Is this making you feel think these kinds of thoughts, whatever it is, are they wrong or are they good? Do they lead you to righteousness or to do sin? And the things I listen to, is this profitable for you to listen to or watch whatever video or audio? Is that a waste of time? Is it just politicism where people are just divided by identity politics, or is it really beneficial? Helps your spiritual life, helps you to uh, be encouraged and to encourage others, or moving towards the person that Yah wants me to be or wants you to be. So, anyway, I've gone on for too long. I still have quite a bit of time to go. I don't know if I can stay up till 3 a.m. That's tough. That's a challenge. I have 4 hours and 17 minutes to 3 a.m. and then another 3 hours to 6. So that would be 7 hours and 17 minutes. I used to work the night shift for 5 years, and to be honest, staying up in Shabbat was one of the hardest things because I would wake up, well, not on Shabbat, but I mean, working on Saturday night was one of the toughest things because you're waking up early for Shabbat and you go to services and whatnot, and it's a full day. And then if you don't get a nap in between, and then you got to stay up from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and then drive home afterwards, which is almost like 40 minutes or more, depending on the traffic. That's a challenge. I almost fell asleep on the road so many times. I would even stop and just take a nap before going home, or you find ways you drink coffee or whatever. And so to do this on this day, it's not gonna be easy. It is a test. Yeshua wasn't joking when he said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He was on point with that. Um, Let me just read it. I don't know if I could find it. Where was that? Let's see if I can find the scripture. I'll just look it up. The flesh is weak. Is weak. Verse. Let's look that up. I'll close on that one because still have a bit of time. Still have at least, I don't know if I can. I could probably go to 3 a.m. I don't know about 6 a.m. That's going to be a challenge. Okay, Matthew 26. That's the one. Let's read that and close. It was actually a sister in the faith who brought this up to me. I didn't even realize it was a watch until she mentioned it kind of in passing. She said, this is a night watch. You're supposed to stay awake. What? I don't think so. I don't think our father's unreasonable to say don't sleep, stay awake. But I looked into it. Yeah, you're actually supposed to stay awake, but it only happens once a year. And it's not for nothing. It's not like, yay, Happy New Year, and just stay awake and drink and get drunk. No, it's you stay awake because, the death angel, you count yourself grateful to be alive. You think on what Yeshua did. You think about your relationship with him, with each other. You think about your life. Think about what he did for us. It's such a immense day. Okay, Matthew 26:41 says here, went to the disciples and found they were asleep. I don't blame them. I'm getting sleepy myself. He said to Peter, what? You couldn't even keep watch with me for 1 hour? 1 hour. Okay, so I guess they started at 12. It's either 12, 12 to 1, like I was assuming, or maybe 3 to 4. But I don't think he would say that 3 to 4 to go, yeah, it is late. I understand. 12 to 1 and go, what? I would say that too. You can even watch 1 hour? Come on, man. You're better than that. Keep watch and pray so that you may be spared trying times. The spirit is eager, but human nature is weak. Yeah. Second time he went away and prayed. So this sounds like maybe 3 a.m., probably after 1. Father, if there's no other way for this to happen without me suffering, then let your purpose be done. He came and found them asleep again, as their eyelids were heavy. I know that feeling. Feels like you're dizzy and like, you can't even keep your eyes open. Yeah, I know that. He left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then he went over to his disciples and said, are you going to sleep and rest indefinitely? This is now the time that the human being is betrayed into sinners' hands. Get up, let's go. My betrayer is near. So they were really tired, and he just, are you really going to sleep? Like, they're going to take me away. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. So there it is. I mean, not only was it a night to be, a watch to be kept in the night, as it says in Exodus 12, it was literally a night, a watch to be kept in the night. I think it's how it's put, how it was expressed. But Yeshua fulfilled that purpose of the watch of the night because he was going to be betrayed that very night. It wasn't for nothing. That very night is a watch kept to Yah. So Israel, ancient Israel, was doing that because they weren't sure if they're going to live or die because the destroying angel was out there, the avenging angel. And there was a chance. Maybe some people didn't put the blood on properly. I don't know. And their lives were at stake, the firstborn. So they kept awake and they could hear all the yelling, all the cries of agony and mourning where people witnessed their firstborn being taken before their eyes, or maybe in the morning. But they heard those cries all around them. Probably was blood chilling, and or spine chilling. And then with Yeshua, with Yeshua, they stayed awake because he was going to be taken captive. They're going to arrest him. He was going to be betrayed. And if they didn't wake up, think about it. Like, really think of it practically. Like, put yourself there in the situation. Don't just read it like it's just a bunch of words. Be there. Like, put yourself in that place and time and emotional atmosphere. So they're just, they have no idea what's going on. They're like, okay, what is happening? Like, you're going to be king, right? A lot of people had supported the president of America. Um, they thought, hey, you're still gonna be president, right? And then it didn't happen. They're expecting that, and maybe the disciples were of that same kind of mind that you're gonna be king, right? You're not gonna actually die. Like, we don't believe what you said. But no, he was arrested. He was betrayed. So what I'm trying to say is, I presented this, I think, in one of my previous videos. It might have been a Sighted Moon newsletter, where it says that the high priest or the chief priest and those who accompanied Judas, Yehuda, it wasn't like 12 people. It wasn't even like 20. It wasn't even like 50. This was a group of not even 100. It was at least closer to 300, 300 people armed with, weapons and shields and all that. It's like, think of a SWAT team. No, think of a military. Like, think of 300 soldiers armed, with all their Kevlar and their rifles and bazookas, and they're ready to kill you. Okay. And then you have 12 men on the other side. Yeshua, who they knew had supernatural abilities. So they were ready for him to, bring down a mountain on them or something. They didn't know what would happen. They were thinking, oh boy, we got to bring 300 men because who knows, he might open the earth and we'll fall in it, or he'll call some kind of lightning on us or something. This isn't a regular guy. He could do miracles. And you have the 12 disciples, and if they're not armed, what do you think would happen to them? They probably would kill them. They would behead them all. But we know the story. I think they all fled. But before that happened, wasn't it that Peter took the sword and chopped off the ear of one of the servants? So just to do that, I'm not saying he was justified in what he did, but slicing off somebody's ear is not a simple thing to do. That's like shooting a grape off somebody's head. It's showing he's like a sharpshooter with a knife. So in a way that will take your attention. You go, okay, let's not mess with these guys. These guys are ready to fight. Like, let's be careful here. And then Yeshua healed the guy, took his ear, put it back, and they probably saw that too, and going, okay, all right, this is what we're dealing with. One guy who was a sharpshooter, like a knife expert, and then one guy who can pretty much negate any physical harm you can do. So let's just arrest him and leave. Probably as a reaction. So, I mean, that was very wise. It was a wise thing to do. It was a wise counsel for Yeshua to say, let's take 2 swords. No, that's enough. You don't need 12 swords because if you actually fight and try to defend or attack them, they will kill you. They'll kill you. You're not going to survive. But we just need to, just to show we're ready. Like in The Godfather Part 2, where he said, okay, you know what? You don't have a gun, but just put your arm in your coat and just pretend. So then they drive by, they won't attack us. That's this similar principle. It's just the appearance of that you're ready to fight, but you're not actually going to fight. You're doing that in order to protect your life. It's like a white lie. You know, you're not bearing false witness against your neighbor, no, you're bearing false witness to preserve your life. That's a big difference. It's like the kind of lie that was told to protect those who were hidden under the floorboards during the World War II, and they were keeping those people hid, those who were of the Yehudim. They were keeping them under the floorboards to preserve their lives. They lied and said, we don't know where they are. And that's a lie. So should they be put to death for lying? No. No, because that was bearing false witness to preserve life. That's not a sin. So it's only a sin if you bear false witness to destroy someone's character, to kill somebody's character and their reputation, to hurt someone. That's when it's a sin. I'm not saying we should be deceitful and be like, oh, yeah, I have 100 mansions and marry me. I have $1 billion. No, I'm not saying that. I mean, yeah, he knows our hearts. He knows our intentions. But anyway, I just wanted to finish with that point. And there's of all the Passovers I've kept, and every time it happens without fail, that these Moedim, these feast days, they don't become less important. They don't become routine in any stretch of the imagination. They only deepen in their impact and the way they change my life my understanding, my relationship with the Father and people around me. That's how I know they're true. That's how I know they don't only have a lot of meaning. You know, one of my biggest gripes against the holidays of the world, you know, the worldly holidays, I'm not going to name them, but you know what they are. December 25th, October 31st, all these pagan dates is it's not that I didn't enjoy them. I love dressing up in costumes. I love to gather with the family and have a good meal. Who doesn't? My biggest gripe was, okay, so what did I learn? And what's the meaning of this? What what's the meaning? What's the purpose? If we're just gonna do this, why don't we just do this on any other day, but not this day? There was no meaning in it. It was so empty. It was a shell of a celebration, an empty shell of a celebration. There's nothing behind it except actually there is stuff behind it. It's a lot of evil, a lot of history rooted in evil and false false worship and practices based on lies and other deities. So when it comes to the Leviticus 23 commemorations, those appointed times and those feast days, not only do they have a lot of meaning in them and symbolism and fulfillment and actual bearing on human history and the purpose of our lives, but yeah, it ties into our purpose of our life. It gives our life meaning, and that makes life worthwhile. That gives our life redeeming value, and it wasn't, no time is ever wasted. You know, there's a saying, it goes like this, that time is never really wasted, for time reveals all things. And it's not from the Bible, it's from, you look it up. But it's such a true saying. And someone posted in their yearbook quote, and it stuck with me. It's such a good quote that life is like a good book. It doesn't make sense at first, but the more that you read it, the more it begins to make sense. And that's a very deep saying too. Mine was pretty deep. I'm not going to say what it is, but that stuck with me because the older you get, the more you realize just how true that is. None of us know the day of our death. Yeah, none of us know the day of our death, but I read somewhere, I think it's in the Apocrypha or the Pseudepigrapha, that time was created for a purpose, to let us number our days so that we may consider we would measure our lives with time. We would live our life more carefully. We would ponder our death. We would ponder the things we would do before we do them. We would think and reflect very carefully on things we would say before we would say them. I have to look it up, to be honest, but it was a very good portion of writing. I'll look it up. I'll look it up and I'll read it. Let me just look it up. So it's actually from a controversial book. It's called Enoch. It's the second book of Enoch, which I'm still on the fence whether it's authentic scripture or not. I know First Enoch is. Second Enoch, I don't know, but this is very instructive verse. It's in Enoch, Second Enoch, chapter 65, and it says here, 65. Listen, my children, before ever anything existed, uh, before anything, before ever any created thing was created, Yah created the whole of his creation, visible and invisible. And however much time there was went by, understand how, on account of this, be constituted. He constituted, and he constituted man in his own form, in accordance with his similarity. He gave him eyes to see, ears to hear, heart to think, reason to argue. And Yah set everything forth for the sake of man, and he created the whole of creation for his sake. He divided it into times. From time he established years. From the years he settled months. From the months he settled days. From the days he settled seven. And in those he settled the hours. And the hours he measured exactly, so that a person might think about time, so that he might count the years and the months and the days and the hours and the perturbations and the beginnings and the endings, and that he might keep count of his own life from the beginning unto death, and think of his sins, and so that he might write his own achievement, both evil and good. For an achievement is hidden in front of Yah, so that every person might know his own achievement. Oh, for no achievement is hidden in front of Yah. That makes more sense. So that every person might know his own achievement, and so that he might not transgress any one of his commandments. There you go. That's deep. Everyone, every person might know his own achievement, good or bad, and so that he might not transgress any one of his commandments at all, and so that he might hold onto what my hand has written in generation and generation. And when the whole of creation, visible and invisible, which Yah has created, shall come to an end, then each person will go to Yah's great judgment, and then all time will perish, and afterward there will be neither years nor months nor days nor hours. They will be dissipated, and after that they will not be reckoned, but they will constitute a single age, and all the righteous who escape from Yah's great judgment will be collected together into the great age. And the great age will come about for the righteous, and it will be eternal, like the kingdom. And after that, there will be among them neither weariness, nor sickness, nor affliction, nor worry, nor want, nor debilitation, nor might, nor night, nor darkness. But they will have a great light, a great indestructible light in paradise, great and incorruptible, for everything corruptible will pass away, and the incorruptible will come into being and will be the shelter of the eternal residences. So that is 2nd Enoch 65. I'm going to read it on the other side of the page. It says, He delivered the age for the sake of man, divided into times, into hours, so that a person might think about the changes of the periods and their ends, the beginnings and the endings of the years and the months and the days and the hours, so that he might calculate the death of his own life. And yeah, I think that's it. No, yeah, it's better on the other side, the left side of the book. So that's that. I'm gonna end it there. Yeah, that was a tough one to record. I gotta admit. Um, yeah, I guess it's just culture, Western society and culture. They make you so self conscious of the way we behave. For just show a little emotion or too much emotion, it's like, oh, that's not good. You should contain yourself. Well, again, there's, like Solomon wrote, there's a time and place for every matter under the sun, for every purpose. There's a purpose and time for, expressing emotion, for doing a certain action, whatever that is. There's even a time to kill. There's really a time to kill. time to refrain, to give life, a time for everything, time to laugh, a time to mourn. And there you go. I think I laughed too during the same day. But yeah, this is a very somber night, and you know, just thankful that I am where I am right now. I mean, what is better than knowing the creator of all things, and knowing what he expects of us, and knowing that he loves us, and knowing we play a part, that we actually can participate in this. We can keep this Passover night, this night that is a watch to be kept to Yah. We have to pray to stay awake. It's not going to be easy. It's only 11 p.m. for me, and I got at least another 7 hours. Yeah, 7 hours. Whoa, it's like a, it's like I just got into my shift. 11 to. I'm gonna go to bed at 6. Hopefully, I don't know if he's gonna get mad if I go to bed at 5. When the sun rises, I'll look that up. When the sun rises, that's when I'll go to bed. Right before the sun rises. But it's a challenge. Never did this in my whole life, and I've observing, been observing this Passover season for 20 years. It's my 20th. I believe it's my 20th or 21st. It's a significant number. And how old am I now? Gonna be almost 40. That's also a significant number. But, man, what peace it gives us that knowing our Father, knowing His laws, and they're not burdensome at all. They're just so reasonable and so wise, and a great blessing and happiness. They're just so rich. It really is gold, and finer than gold, sweeter than honey. I can really say that and mean it now, not just read it. It's more life giving than the freshest air on the top of a mountain peak. More harmonious than any symphony that the best composer could ever write. If that makes sense, harmony, because the words come together and there's so many layers to them. Like the more you listen to a piece of music, the better it gets, right? And you notice things in a really good piece that you may not have noticed on the 100th listen, but thou, the thousandth listen, you hear something new. You're going, wait, what? He was actually doing this different rhythm, and now there's something, and that's the same way with the word of yeah. It's just so many layers, and it's so it really is Elohim. And when I realized that reading Isaiah 53, I mean, yeah, he's Elohim, he's Yeshua, those things, but you don't, when you really read the true word of Elohim that the Septuagint is, what Paul said is true. Like the word of God is like it's a sword. It's a double-edged sword. Like it cuts through the marrow, it cuts through the spirit. I don't know where that is, but that is so true. It is true. I felt that. I felt I felt that when I read Isaiah 53. I felt it deep in here, deep in my heart and my mind, deep in my spirit. I could feel it cutting to who I was, the battle that takes place in my mind and my heart, that there has to be a boundary, there has to be lines, there has to be uh, a standard, there has to be honesty that, hey, are you doing this? Are you really doing it all the time? Like, are you doing your best? So, I don't know what to say. I'm just going to end the video now. I still have, like I said, how many hours? 6 hours and 45 minutes, I think. So I'm going to end this now and I'll upload it. And it's going to be an interesting reaction if people actually watch it and react, but whatever. It is what it is. This is the Passover night, the very night that is a watch to be kept to Yah, the 14th of the first month, going by the witness of a reliable witness and Mrs. Rebecca Biederman, regarding the flax, the barley, the things she's pointed out that are very convincing. I cannot refute what she has presented. My only argument is, okay, maybe we need a lot, but she's correct in saying that a lot of people back then were agricultural. They were an agrarian society, so they would harvest what they would need. And they would be reasonable enough to say, okay, we can get an omer. It's reasonable enough. It's not like they had to, hey, there's one here and then there's one at this end of the field. Then, no, the harvest takes place at the right time. They would have enough to harvest that omer. I think she's correct. But still, I'm going to keep it next month as well and see. We'll see. And if there's a difference, if I notice that difference, maybe I will know that this is really the new year, or this is the new year, or is it next month is the new year? But anyway, pray for a sign, and that would be the sign that Yah would show me, that the one He wants, the sign He wants to show me, or the way He wants to show it to me, whether it's something visible or invisible. I don't know. I feel like this is sort of a sign. This because I almost forgot. I almost forgot about this. To be honest, we had the Zoom meeting earlier, and we did all that, and there was readings, and it was a solemn proceedings. It was a solemn proceeding. Can I say that? But I almost forgot about this watch. I don't know what just came into my head, like out of nowhere, like the wind. Like when I get inspired to write a song, it just comes out of nowhere. You don't really know from where it comes, but you just know that it's there. And if you're not attuned to it and you don't grasp it, and you don't settle on it, you don't, just like seize it, it'll, as fast as it comes, it'll go away. So you really have to you need to be aware of that, and you need to hold that thought and hold that reminder. And going, okay, yeah, this is important. So I should probably research it and prove it to myself. I mean, this video is really for me. This video is just for me, really. I mean, I didn't really plan to present it to the world, but turns out that's what's going to happen. It's going to be like 2 hours. I'm not trying to convince anyone to do it the way I'm doing it. I'm just showing you through the scripture what it says. So it's up to you what you do. But let the Spirit of Yah lead you to understand what He expects and lead you to do what you should be doing according to what He wants, not according to our understanding or our preference of whatever translation. Just base it on truth. Truth is truth, whether it's in Chinese or Italian or English or German or Hebrew or Farsi or Persian or Arabic, Egyptian, ancient Egyptian, hieroglyphs, Proto Canaanite, Phoenician, whatever language it's in. Truth is truth. I mean, recall the inscription above Yeshua. It said it in three languages. This is Yeshua Mashiach, the King of the Yehudim, in Latin, in Greek, I believe, and in Hebrew. So it doesn't matter what language it was in, and they all said the same thing. But you have to make sure that they say the same thing, right? You got to make sure. Are they saying the same thing or not? Because what if it said in the Greek and the Latin, this is Yeshua of Nazareth, King of the Jews. But then in Hebrew it says, this is Barbaros, the thief who killed many soldiers. That's a problem if it said that. Or this is the false Messiah, and he said this, but he is a heretic in Hebrew. What if it said that? Then you would not take that as truth. And that's what's happening with the Masoretic text. Just because it's in Hebrew doesn't mean it's the truth. Truth is truth. You have to decipher it using the spirit of Yah, using an open mind, using critical thinking. That's why we need to prove all things and hold fast to that which is true. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. And again, happy Passover. And those keeping this watch, may Yah give you the strength to stay awake. For the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But Yah can do anything, even make a donkey speak. So why can he not keep this man awake? He could do it. Okay. Shalom. Shabbat shalom.